Please help me in welcoming Betsy Myers.
Well done. Good afternoon, everyone. I love the name of this conference, Live Fearlessly, Imagine Your Path to Purpose. I know that I've gone to many women's conferences, and I always hope that I leave with a one or two ahas, or simply, sometimes we just need a day of our lives to step back and think. And so I want you to, today, while you're going through this lunch and the different panels, start by having you think about something and ask yourself, how does your work bring purpose to your life? What aspect of your work or life makes your heart sing? And what is that feeling that you get inside your belly when you know you're doing the right thing? As Allison said, I just wrote a book called Take the Lead. And the premise of my book is a different way to think about leadership. But what I'm saying is that leadership actually creates a feeling. And if every one of us in this audience were to close our eyes and think about the times in your life you were most productive, most excited to get out of the bed in the morning, weren't those also the times when you felt valued, you felt included, you felt appreciated, you felt listened to? And so one of the things I say in my book is that every one of us is a leader. So many of you I know in this audience don't think of yourself as a leader, and I challenge you because at the very least, you're leading your own life. One of the things I talk about in my book is about authentic leadership. What does it mean to be authentic? What does authentic leadership mean? And as an example, a friend of mine ran for Congress a year ago in New Hampshire, Annie Custer. And as she was campaigning, she was having a meeting with some colleagues of hers, and she said to them, you know, I've been thinking, I'm going to change my hair, I wear glasses, but I'm going to start wearing contacts. And she had all these things she was going to change, and one of her friends stopped her and said, Annie, no, be who you are. That's who we need to go to Congress, you. There's been 1,000 studies in academia across the world looking at what is a leader, who is a leader. And if we could just find 5 or 7 things that people could copy that would make them a better leader. And what's come out of that, interestingly enough, is that there is no right way to do it. That leadership really is in every one of us is who you are. And that authenticity boils down to finding the real me in each of us. As Allison said, I just joined Bentley University as the new founding director of the Center for Women in Business. And one of the reasons I decided to take that job is the opportunity to work with President Gloria Larson, who was just up here a little bit ago. And as you know, many of you know Gloria. She's been a complete role model in this state for a long time. And the first woman president at Bentley University, she epitomizes authenticity. She is who she says she is, and you don't wonder. And part of that is what causes us to trust people, is when they are truly their authentic self. But what we're trying to do at the Center for Women in Business is that it's hard to believe in 2011, we're still looking at numbers that show that the top jobs in corporate America, only 14% of those jobs are held by women. And at the same time, corporate America is saying, we know we need to do better, that the world has changed, the workforce has changed. The majority of people entering the workforce every year now in today's world are women and people of color. And so companies are saying it's an economic imperative that we do better, that we get more women into jobs, that we support, retain, and promote women. And that's what we're working at Bentley, because we believe that we want to help women become their authentic self in corporate America. That being said, why are so many women starting their own businesses? Why do women leave corporate America? Similar to the work of my book, it's because women often don't feel valued, they don't feel supported, they don't feel included, and that's where we're hoping to make a change. So what do? They step out and they start their own businesses. And for the last 20 years, women-owned businesses are the fastest growing segment of the business economy. So the other day, we just got a new puppy in our household, and we found a fantastic store run by a woman called Active Paws in Waltham, Massachusetts, and I was in there talking to the owner of the store. And her name's Kara, and she's passionate about dogs and animals. And she said to me, without even being prompted, she said, I love dogs, and all my friends were always calling me all the time about how to take care of their dogs, their pets, what's the best food, what's the best leash, where do you crate them if you're going on a vacation. So she said, I finally decided that I'd start my own business. And she's very, very successful. But here's what she said. She said, all my life in school and in other jobs I had, I always got C's. She said, I followed my heart and I followed my passion, and now in my own business, I get A's. And that's what we're talking about. We want to get A's in our life. When we know who we are, others sense it, and they want to be around us. One of the reasons I went to work for Barack Obama, and this is not a political advertisement at all, but I was one of the top first people hired, in the top 20 leaders of the campaign. And in a staff meeting with his senior people, in the early stages of '07, he said something that touched my heart. He said, it's a long shot. We were at this point, Barack Obama had less than 10% name recognition. But he said, we're going to run a really good campaign. And if I win, great. And if I lose, so be it. But don't ever ask me to be something I'm not or someone I'm not to win. And there's something about our leaders and people that when we sense that they're who they are, we trust them more. Deval Patrick, our governor here in Massachusetts, is a very similar person. And in my work at the White House, I had the opportunity 15 years ago to work with Deval Patrick. And I was impressed then, I'm impressed now at the authenticity of what he brings to his role as governor here in Massachusetts. But it's hard to do, and it takes courage, because all of us know as women, we grow up with so many expectations about who we should be, what our parents thought we should be, who our friends think we should be, who the company we work for thinks we should be. And when I worked at Harvard, I ran the Center for Public Leadership. There was a gentleman that worked for me who was our CFO. And he was 50 years old. And through our conversations, he shared with me that all his life in his childhood, his mother said, you must get an accounting degree because you'll always get a job. So that was the path he followed, and his whole career had been CFO at various organizations. But his heart was in advertising and graphic design and more of a creative life. But he found himself 50 years old, working in an area that he didn't even love, and the truth was he wasn't that good at it. Because we usually do best in the areas of which our heart, where our skills are valued and where we should be in the world. And I always say this in my talking, which is, particularly we as women, we know you might put on a sweater that doesn't really fit, and you know it doesn't fit. And you might decide to wear it anyways, but you know all day long if it's a little tight, it might have a little hole under the arm, or maybe the color isn't quite right. And you decide, the leader in me, we decide to wear that sweater, but we know that it's not right. And so what's great about days like today is the opportunity to step back and say, am I wearing the right sweater? Am I working in the right place? Are my gifts being valued? What are my gifts? And so what I challenge all of you to do is to add time into your life to think about these things, to go to yoga, to take a walk. We as women, we're running so fast and we always forget to stop and ask those questions. What makes us happy in the world? And then make sure you find mentors in your life, people who give you honest truth and feedback, not people who tell you you're wonderful all the time, but people who are willing to show you the truth in the mirror, to challenge us to be our very best selves. And a very interesting study came out by LinkedIn recently, and I think this is really interesting. 70% of people who are not currently a mentor were asked why. And the reason was they'd never been asked. So wherever person that you'd like to be your mentor, why not ask them if they would mentor you? Someone you admire in a career, or maybe not even in your company, somewhere else, to add that feedback and perspective to your life. So in closing, I just want to share a story with you that I've told before, so if some of you have heard it, I apologize. But I have a little daughter named Madison, and she's 9 now, and she's probably teaches me the most in my life. And when she was 4 years old, I picked her up from preschool, and she said to me, "Mommy, please don't overschedule me." And as she saw all her friends getting picked up for ballet and karate, and so she said, "I just want to hang out with you and Daddy on weekends." So I said, "Well, okay, but if you ever discover anything, you'd like to do, I'll help you do it." So when she was 6 years old, she discovered dance. And not surprising, because if you couldn't find her, she was always somewhere in the house dancing and singing. So she joined an organization that does ballet, tap, and jazz. And today, 3 years later, she dances 3 days a week. But at the time, we went to the store to pick out her leotard and her tutu and her tights and her shoes. And we picked them out, and she was in the dressing room, and she was looking at herself in the mirror with her outfit on, and she was just beaming. And she turned to me and she goes, "Mommy, I'm freaking out with joy." She said, "I was born to dance." And what I love about that story is that it reminds us in our lives that we're supposed to be freaking out with joy. That what happened to that childhood wonder and excitement, and that somehow we become adults and we think, well, it's okay to be miserable because I have responsibilities and bills to pay. And what I challenge each of you today is to think about, when do you freak out with joy? What were the times in your life where you were freaking out with joy? And you know those people around you who are. So I wish you all the best in the conference, and remember that at the end of the day, it's your life, right? You're the leader of your own life, and find out, or at least go to, the things in your life that make you freak out with joy. Thank you very much.